What's up, everybody? Welcome. It is Tuesday, less than 2 weeks until the 49ers play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Or, as some are saying, John, when's the flag football Pro Bowl? Is that this week or next week?
I don't know if that still exists.
The
Pro Bowl exists, but they don't play flag football anymore.
Is that this week or in 2 weeks? They're still doing that before the Super Bowl?
That's during the break, yeah.
All right, so countdown to future Olympic sport, flag football, maybe not, Pro Bowl. We're on YouTube and on the podcast. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube, and leave us a review. 5 stars, Apple Podcasts. We're brought to you by our friends at Tito's. Handmade vodka. Tito's handmade vodka. A Tito's toast. Do you have a Tito's toast today, John?
I do. It's been about, when's this? Almost February 1st. So I moved in early October. The Cox guy came over this morning and installed fiber internet. So it's been about 3, 4, 5 months in the making, and we got fiber. Seeing that upload speed at the same thing as the download speed.
What are our speeds?
Well, I checked earlier today. It was 875. So it's that sometimes when you hit the 700 and the other one would be at 30, it didn't feel right. Now you feel like unfucking stoppable. I might start gaming.
Can you imagine the version of yourself that used to have to sign on to AOL Instant Messenger at like 10 o'clock at night on the family computer from the living room? You turn down the speaker, it doesn't matter. It still goes, right? You can't manage that sound. Your parents know you're getting on the internet.
That
kid had no idea.
And that computer system weighed about 700 pounds. It felt like there were like 8 different compartments. There was the computer part. There was the huge monitor. It was all connected with these crazy wires. I mean, there was a lot going on.
Couldn't take that into the bedroom and close the door.
Now kids just have their little iPad with unlimited stuff. My parents wouldn't buy me a Game Boy or whatever the Sega Genesis one to save my life.
Amen.
And every kid now has a fucking iPad, which I understand it, but I would have died for just a little contraption.
Tito's handmade vodka, distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. However you like to drink it, take it to somebody's house. You'll be a hero. Always have it stocked in yours or up to the bar. Tito's and soda, Tito's and ginger, whatever you like. Tito's handmade vodka. Appreciate the sponsorship.
You know, I was thinking that visual right before I changed the channel to the Niner game. There was like the visual on the stage of Travis and Mahomes, but to the right was Jim Nance, Andy, I think the president of the Chiefs, I forget his name, and Clark Hunt.
Oh,
what? Well, their Al Guido was kind of standing off in the back, and then Clark and his wife. And I can't even imagine. And it's obviously pretty cool. It's the Lamar Hunt Trophy, which they're just winning like every year. But his wife, Lamar's wife passed away this year. Like they're wearing the patches. But the visual of Clark having to sit there like, this is the best fucking thing I ever did. Like, ultimately, just getting to the game. Obviously, you want to win the Super Bowl. They've won them. But if you're just constantly rattling off playoff games on that stage, what it does to your franchise, like everyone, I mean, it's well established now. The Cowboys are the biggest quote-unquote brand in terms of you put them on television. Their ratings on like some of these Sundays throughout the year are insane. But they haven't played in conference championship games. The 49ers have. They've played in now 7 of them since 2011. And 2 of them are the highest rated games of all time. Like, their brand is like Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan mixed in with the National Football. It just doesn't get any bigger. It's like one of the biggest brands in America when you factor in like doing that type number. And for Jed, that hiring Kyle, and listen, he at that point in time, he was so desperate he would have done whatever they said, but agreeing to do the John Lynch thing, and now looking back, a couple Super Bowl appearances. Obviously, it is important for him to eventually win one, so the talk stops. But like just hosting these games and winning the fucking trophy, even if they had lost the game, being in that. Do you know what Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni would have done to be in that fucking game? You know what Jerry Jones would have done to be in that fucking game? Pete Carroll just got fired because there was no hope of them being in that game. Pete Carroll, I mean, I would say of our lifetime, definitely our adult life, easily a top 5 coach, any sport. I mean, what he did at USC, what he did in Seattle, fired, told, get out of here. Save that dog shit franchise in Seattle. Made him a powerhouse. fired, ran out of town. And it was stressful and everything. And even Kyle said when they kicked the field goal coming out of the half, he was pretty nervous. He told that to the team in the locker room. But like the importance of being in that's why the Harbaugh, when he was fired, was such a big deal. Because like, I don't think you guys realize like, okay, your shitty year was 8-8, but you were just rattling off conference championship games. Like that's getting to the Final Four in football. We don't talk about it like college basketball. But, like, I'm sorry, it's a pretty big deal for the business of your brand and your franchise. And the 49ers are so established now. But, like, if you told me Dan Campbell goes to 2 more of these the next couple years, like, it just changes the franchise forever. Forever.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are, I think, probably the only team in the league that can still be big news if they're 4-12 or 4-13 now, right? I think – like, that's how big they are. The Niners are
Yankees and Lakers. Same thing.
Yep, correct. I would agree. The 49ers are a top 5 NFL franchise. But to be as big as they are, where they're in the highest rated games, historically they play the Cowboys, or just you play in the NFC Championship game a lot, you're a big deal. But the Niners do it with superstar person. All right, Jim Harbaugh was one of the biggest stars of the league when he was the 49ers coach. I saw a cut up of
he felt by about after year 1 and they were good. Probably as famous as after like the top 5-6 quarterbacks. Like he was right up there. Right?
Yeah. Who's got it better than us was,
he literally was a quarterback, right?
He was a quarterback. Yeah. I saw somebody did a Jed York highlight reel on my Twitter feed yesterday. And one of the things Jed York appreciation post.
Was it like fuck it Jed highlights?
Yes, basically. And one of them, which I actually was like, I think it's a clip from several years ago, like in the locker room.
I'm a sucker for those, to be honest.
I know.
I saw like
Dom DeSandro highlights.
Yeah.
But one of them was Kyle says, or Jed says, champions act like champions before they're actually champions. And I thought I was like, you know what? I think that's true. And that's how it summarized best how I've always felt about Kyle Shanahan. We'll see if he wins the Super Bowl or not. But, coaches love to say it's about the players, not about us. Kyle actually said it the other day. And players love to say, if I'd played for a different coach who knew how to use me, man, when it works for players, mostly they're just like, yeah, he knows how to use me. He knows how to use me. But the reality is it's not either or, it's both. It's the greatest teams generally have the best coaches and have the best talent. Like it takes the best weapons to win the biggest wars. And that's what we're at here. But it does start for the 49ers with the coach. Like that's where this started when they hired Kyle Shanahan. And I don't know. I don't really remember what the Chiefs' level of desperation was when they hired Andy. I definitely remember
they were drafting number 1 overall. They were bad. They had a moment, I think, the year before with Javon Belcher. Remember when he killed his girlfriend and went to Scott Pioli and told Scott Pioli and Romeo Crennel like he thanked them and then blew his head off
behind the pickup truck in the parking lot.
I think it was more than just bad football. The whole thing was dark.
So they were desperate. And the Niners, we all remember how desperate they were. I mean, they were coming off Chip and Tomsula. And not just that, like they had parted ways. They had fired the guy who had brought them back to relevance, right?
Yeah.
And so the theory is just if you're around the ball enough, eventually you'll win it. You'll get the ball. And that was what happened with Andy. Andy Reid was around the ball so much. Philly, it's like, God, eventually this guy's got to win a Super Bowl, right? But it doesn't always happen.
Well, I think he went to 5 conference championships in Philly. And now this is a 6 in Kansas City. So you're talking like 10, 11 conference championships. He only has 2 Super Bowls, right? But I bet the majority of those conference championships, there are people on his team in the building thinking like, we're winning the Super Bowl.
Right.
And then you just look at the percentage. So if it's 2 out of 11, now maybe this is 3 out of 11 if he wins this. But let's say he loses it. He's 2 of 11. But every coach in the league would gladly take 2 of 11, right? Where I get 2 championships and I get to go to 11 conference championship games. That means clearly I am going to be, unless Belichick's coaching around me, I'm going to be considered the best coach in the league.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So if Kyle's already got 4 and 2 appearances now. So if you win 1, you're one of 4, right? You've got to the Final Four 4 times, and you've won a Super Bowl once. Like that's a pretty good start. If I tell you he goes 2 of 8, like you'd sign up for that right now, right?
2 of 8?
I mean, he makes 4 more conference championship games. He wins his Super Bowl, and then he wins another one over the course of those 4 more.
Right.
I mean, is he not immediately considered like one of the great all-time coaches if that's the case?
Yeah, I mean, you win 1, we start talking about what happens. I mean, Pete won 1.
I see. That's where I do think like you shit on McCarthy all the time. Tomlin gets shit on. Like John Harbaugh, right?
Yeah. Well, I think like Sean
Payton. The farther you get away from the ring, it kind of dissipates a little bit.
Well, it depends what you do. Like Sean Payton won 1, but then every year you'd watch him like that's one of the best coaches in the league, right? So Sean Payton got treated that way. Like not everybody's 1 is the same. Sean's 1 is different than Barry Switzer's.
For sure. But even like, I'll give you an example. I feel like I'm defending this guy, and I'm not really. People go, McCarthy had Aaron Rodgers. Everyone knows he won the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers before the MVPs. That was in 2010. I saw it because I was with the Eagles when he beat us in the first round. Then Aaron started rattling off the MVPs after. And I give McCarthy credit for, remember, when they got rid of Favre, McCarthy was the coach. No one thought Aaron, I mean, it was just, but his one Super Bowl, I think we talk about, in the peak of his powers. No, that he actually didn't win them, which is more of an indictment, like 11, 14, obviously, as his career went on. Every once in a while, the Seattle-Green Bay game is on the conference championship game. And the Packers had I think it was like 17 or 19-0. Remember, they were kicking all these field. They were beating the shit out of Seattle. It was on the other day. Seattle got a fucking onside kick. That's the way they won. Crazy. But part of it is like, let's face it, Andy, once he won in 20, the way everyone talked about him was basically you just had to throw it in the trash. Because it's completely different now. It was very, very similar to Kyle.
I think
Kyle is the new Andy.
I think to argue Kyle is the new Andy. Yeah. I think to argue against McCarthy, I'm not a big pro McCarthy guy to a point. But I don't think the argument against McCarthy is he won with Aaron. I mean, as we've seen, it doesn't guarantee you anything having Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. It turns out it's kind of hard to coach Aaron. I think the argument is just look at how he's looked since he won. It appears as though there's a cap on how far he can take a team. Right. Like we have now a bunch of data on him. We've got a ton of data on him now. He doesn't get to the championship game.
I think the problem is, but he did a lot, over in his time in Green Bay. I think he went to like 3 or 4 of them. Now he hasn't with the Cowboys, but nobody does with the Cowboys.
That's true. Maybe it's a Jerry Jones problem.
My point is, I guess, is like, I bet Jerry looked at it. I'm just using him as an example because Kyle is weird, right? He becomes very polarizing immediately after a bad game. They had the option of Belichick, but you could argue like Mike's better with the offense. Does Bill know anything about the offense? Like there is some risk involved, right? Mike is working with your quarterback playing well. And like if Kyle loses this game, let's say he loses and the game kind of looks like the previous 2 games, right? He loses, like, that's just a bad L. It's one thing to lose Super Bowl. Mahomes makes a great game-winning throw to Kelsey. It's like, fuck, tip your hat. But it looks more like a Detroit, Green Bay, where it's, this team just isn't as good. There would be like, is this guy ever going to be good enough? Well, yeah, there's just no chance of like, you're just riding with him for a long fucking time until he starts losing games, right? And that's where Andy got. As long as you are in the mix, you're going nowhere. So there is pressure on him to win it in terms of like the way he's discussed and for a legacy and stuff. But as long as he keeps rattling off division championships and double-digit wins, you do just keep job security for a long period of time. And rightfully so. Because like, hypothetically, Kyle was fired tomorrow. Be like, well, what are your options? Like, I wouldn't take Belichick over Kyle in 2024. I wouldn't. Okay, Mike Vrabel. He is a good coaching candidate. I would rather have Kyle Shanahan than Mike Vrabel. And this is like an incredible guys available. Pete Carroll, he's won Super Bowl. Fuck, not a soul in the NFL would take. John Schneider would be like, well, can I get Kyle? Right? I mean, so it's just, that's where you get into this weird talk. And Andy became this, by the time I got there in Philly, it had been going so long. And, the NFC Championship games weren't as consistent. So as long as I guess my ultimate point to start this conversation is like, this is why Jed's paying him all this money. It's not actually to win the Super Bowl. I know Jed loves talking about it like Give me a fucking break. He was never around the team with Bill Walsh. It's really to do this. Like, this is the business model. When you hear a lot of people talk, like, not every owner cares about winning, it is kind of true because they'll kind of go cheap on a coach or whatever. The reason they keep giving these guys raises because they just keep winning, which generates them all the money. And the 49ers right now are a huge reason. Like, obviously, whoever's drafted in the top 10, like Washington or Carolina, right? Those teams mean so little to the revenue generation that is the TV. Like, the Niners are kind of carrying, but you split all the profits with everybody. And, you get a lot of, you don't get credit. It's just part of the partnership of like certain people carry, but the 49ers consistently carry you. And they've shown like their television ratings in these 7 years, over 13 years in the conference championship game, have been fucking enormous. I would say the 11 was a perfect storm. You have the New York Giants, who, when are good, have to have one of, just in quantity, the largest fan bases in the league. With Eli Coughlin, who'd already won a Super Bowl against Jim Harbaugh. It was the perfect storm.
Jets, another team that are a story when they have 4 wins, by the way. You just made me think of that.
Like, if I told you the Giants were the equivalent of the Lions, I mean, is that number 65?
I mean, the one thing with Detroit is, Detroit did a 40 local, or maybe higher than a 40 local market share.
I thought it was 45.
Yeah, 45. It was close to 50.
Fuck, Niners did a 30? What are all those people doing?
I know.
Weirdos, whack jobs.
It's weird because you go around town, like you think it's just Niner flags, Niner hats everywhere, just like every single person you see, which is sneaky. You forget, like I forget what it's like to be in a town where a team's competing. Like when the San Francisco Giants went chasing championships everywhere you went, but because baseball's a daily thing. Baseball's different.
I wonder, I don't know exactly how, like if I watch on YouTube TV, do they get, does that number, that 30 factor that in? I don't know.
The ratings include, YouTube. And now the ratings include even like bars and stuff.
Yeah.
They started doing that a few years ago. But I guess what I'm saying is you're right. It would be higher if it were the Giants. I think Detroit was sneaky a big draw for everybody this year. Like a kind of a national, that was not like the Bucks, right? Being in that game. I think it brought people to, they're such an easy story. They're such a lovable team. Everyone watches them on Thanksgiving. Your casual fan, your super casual fan knows the Detroit Lions are supposed to suck, right? It's just a basic storyline of being around football. You see them every Thanksgiving, and everyone who watches football in your family is like, this team suck. I wish they'd get the Lions off of my TV on Thanksgiving. Can we get another game? And now they're there. I mean, I remember 2 weeks ago seeing that their ticket prices were higher than the Niners-Packer game, going, oh shit, like those people are going to travel to the Bay Area because they're just seeing something they've never seen before in their lives. But anyway,
I got a lot of texts from people at the game saying there were a lot of Lions fans.
Yeah, somebody texted me when they were walking in the gates. They said they thought it was like 60-40 or
how cool was that video at whatever Ford Field? I mean, that's
really cool.
I mean, that's just cool. It's really, really cool. And I wish they would have had a reporter there when everyone walked out. Like, what was that like?
I saw a video today of like a Niner touchdown or a Niner score and how depressing it was there, But I think to your back to your point on Jed and just the Niners is that I think one of the biggest cliches in life that we've all heard for years and just ignore, but is really true. It's one of the truest cliches that exists is that, most things in life are about the journey, not the destination. And I think for owners, NFL teams, or any team really, they talk about the destination and we're about championships, but it really is just about the journey. It's about every week having a team that sells tickets and gets people in, right? Having games that matter. Like, I think if you're a college football team, sometimes you don't want to be too good, right? Because if you're too good, people don't come to your game against the middle of the road. They're like, we're going to kick that team's ass. We can skip that one. So you can't be this way forever. Like, you have to eventually take a step up, which the Niners have. But
Saban complained about that a lot. I felt like over the last 5 years, like guys not showing up. Like, we need you guys, and they play. Well, it's like, Nick, I don't want to watch you play this 3-win Mississippi State team or this dog shit D1 AA team.
Exactly. So anyway, it is about, when it comes to making money, it's about the journey, not the destination, right? Like, we don't watch TV shows for the last episode. We watch them for the every week drama of it all. And that's what sports are. That's what these games are too.
But I don't even making money for sure, Jed, but I even mean as a fan, like, it doesn't get any better than just always having a shot.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Like the Chiefs, let's say they lose, and then they get back to the Super Bowl next year and they lose again. they wouldn't trade this shit for the world. Like the notion that like the Steelers that won 4, the Patriots that won 6, like those days are probably over. I guess the Chiefs have a chance. But like the Chiefs have a chance. They'd be the first back-to-back champs since the Patriots. But like if Kyle wins this, and this is the only Super Bowl he ever wins, but their team is sweet for the next 5 years, it's all you can sign up for. Like this is not fantasy sports. You know, the likelihood of winning several Super Bowls, there's a short list of people that have ever done that. Like now, my initial take is like, I actually think the 49ers are going to win. But like if they don't, it would suck. But how could you ask for anything better at the end of the season? Like we're in Las Vegas. Every single team wants that.
If you're not going to win like 3 or 4, right? Like if you win 3 or 4 over the course of a decade, your brand, your money, like it just all does become bigger. But at the end of it, when you walk out after you lose the one, what really did you lose out on? I'm not saying you didn't get the championship, right? That's the competitive goal, but we're talking from like an ownership standpoint. From a financial standpoint, what did you really lose out on? You've kind of ended the point of the season where you make your money. You didn't get a parade. You're not making any money on a parade. It costs you money, right?
Some
off-season merch. You're losing on some off-season merch.
Like that. You can raise ticket prices.
But really, you have just about – you're raising ticket prices anyway. You've just about maxed how much money you can make on the scale. Your coach
because because for example, win or lose, are the 49ers the odds-on favorite to win the NFC going into next year?
Yeah, I mean Ben Johnson's back for the Lions, which is a big story that just happened today, but they're not going to be.
I'd say them, the Rams, the Packers. I mean, they're all going to have good odds, but the Niners are going to be the odds-on favorite, assuming Brock Purdy or Trent Williams doesn't like tear his Achilles or something in the offseason or in this game, right? Something devastating doesn't happen, but I don't think we talked about. I don't know if you talked about it. That I think was there a report Sunday morning that Ayuk's a priority for the 49ers?
No, I didn't talk about. I didn't see that report.
Yeah, Rap Sheet I think said that Ayuk's a priority, which makes sense. I mean, right? So I think, and part of it is the 5th-year option is essentially a smaller franchise tag. Like it's actually cheaper to extend in the short term in terms of your salary cap, right? If you give him $60 million guaranteed, you can spread it out. His salary cap could be small.
As opposed
next
to
year. Well, the 5th-year option, let's say 18. Well, it's all on your salary cap. They definitely do not. Like he's either extended or he's not on the team. He's not playing on this team for a 5th-year option. But like this team is not going anywhere. I mean, their greatest attribute. I was texting with Daniel Jeremiah yesterday, and I was like, "If Purdy just signed if Purdy just signed like a 10-year, $10 million contract, fuck, he can be the Niner quarterback forever."
Yeah,
but I mean, part of it is like his advantage the next couple of years not making any money.
Garrett, like a you're saying like he's like a 22-year-old baseball player, like a baseball guy.
Like the polar, like my take on him or whatever. As long as he's on this money, like he's the best value in the NFL. Like there's a short list of true best values, like Sam Laporta, 2nd-round pick, might be the best tight end in the NFL right away, or top 2 or 3 with Kittle and Kelsey. Immediately it's hard to get any better than that. Purdy, starting quarterback, under $1 million. It doesn't get any better than that. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Starting tackle, right, is who's on a rookie deals in that conversation.
But I'm not even talking rookie deal. Like if you draft a guy, because we were talking about the Chargers' 5th pick. That pick does make $8 million. So, for example, I was like, well, I was texting with DJ. I'm like, take Brock Bowers. Right? He's like, the problem is the franchise tag for a tight end is like 12 or 13 million. And that means he's the best, one of the best players, like Kittle or Kelsey, right? Or those type guys are franchise tagged. That number is 12 or 13. So immediately Brock Bowers is making 8. So it's like he better be elite or you got a problem.
Or he's too expensive of a tight end.
Yeah. It just doesn't financially. You're better off drafting like a defensive lineman, right? Who's $8 million. Well, if that guy's just really good, even if he's not elite, he's still a fucking bargain because he'd be 20 instead of 8. So like the Purdy thing, as long as he's making under $1 million, it's not debatable. His value is historically incredible. Right?
He's the most valuable player, and it's not even close.
Yeah, like
by that definition.
I think he would get polarizing immediately, in my opinion. And again, we're years away from this, but like I'm not talking 40, 50. Like we started approaching 30. we'd start having serious conversations. But that's not the case right now. So it's like he's clearly pretty good, and he fucking doesn't make any money, so it doesn't get any better. He's still got time to prove that he can be even better, right? Maybe his arm gets stronger or whatever. But right now, there's no debate to be had about like it just doesn't get any better than this quarterback on this deal. Think Trey Lance was making fucking $9 million. That was one of the worst deals in the NFL. Wait, this guy's terrible, and you invested all this in him, and he can't play, and then you trade him, and now he's a third stringer? You could argue that your third string quarterback makes $9 million. You could argue that's the worst deal in the NFL. Purdy's the best. Trey Lance might have been one of the worst. At least you get guys like, yeah, this guy's overrated or whatever. He fucking plays. He sweats on the field.
Yeah, Chase Young still makes tackles, right? Even if you think, well, he's not a guy you're going to want to resign.
Still, runs into the offensive lineman and tires him out.
He's one of the 11.
Kind of. The one play you forwarded me of like his effort running across the field was.
Not ideal. But, he made some other plays, made some other tackles.
What if that was full effort for him?
Nobody's perfect. He thought the guy was going out of bounds.
I think
he's got to play more snaps.
Probably easier for them to tell Rap Sheet because any discussion about him coming back is safe to say that's not happening.
Not happening. Yeah. Somebody asked me
I don't even think he's going to have any value on the open market.
No. Well, somebody asked me, what if he was really cheap? And I was like, even then, I think the problem with him would be you already got you tried to get the Chris Kasarik bump for him. It didn't happen. Right. So you would spend, let's say he was going to only cost you $3 million. You'd spend that $3 million on somebody else that maybe you could get the Chris Kasarik bump for, right? Because this guy clearly isn't getting the Chris Kasarik bump.
Yeah, one thing's clear with their defense. I heard Kyle say this, and I kind of forgot about this guy, but obviously he's because he's been injured for a couple of weeks, and now he's on injury reserve. Is Cleveland Farrell?
Yeah,
it's just a better player.
Yeah,
right. He's definitely better against the run.
Reason.
Yeah, and you see the dude on the Chiefs, Amenahu, towards ACL. Like that sucks. Probably be a cool moment for him playing against his former team who resurrected his career. Kind of sneaky win for the Niners. That guy's just a solid player. Like the Niners missed that kind of random group. They would trade Chase Young for that random trio of like the Clelands, the Omenahus, kind of that group.
Ebukam.
Oh my God. And that's the problem.
Kerry Hyder, right?
I think they got him back, and remember he kind of sucked.
Yeah, it was the old Kerry Hyder. DJ Jones.
They just miss. This is Kasarik gets these guys paid, and you can't keep them. And this is their offense kind of does that to the third wide receiver. Like, what was Kendrick Bourne going to do? Turn down $15 million from the Patriots?
Right.
What's Juwan Jennings going to do? Like, you can't keep Ayuk. If they do sign Ayuk this offseason, Juwan Jennings is 100%. His long-term future with the Niners is just completely over, right? If someone offers them several $1 million on the open market, like they can't.
Arden Key. Amenahu had 7.5 sacks this year.
He's good. It's
a big loss for them.
I'm a sucker for that guy on a new team playing his old team in huge spots. Just kind of cool. Everyone hugs pregame. They really like each other. I'm a little bit of a sap for that moment.
Who did I see? Emmanuel Mosley was on the field before. He's a Lion, but he's on IR. Remember, he got hurt.
Exactly.
He played in that game.
Like Juan Toscano Anderson or whatever. He's like on the Lakers, and like Steph and Draymond, they all see him. It's just that moment of you've been through the battles with someone, you respect them, even though like Trent Williams hugs the guy, even though one guy's a $20 million Hall of Famer, the other guy's like a $2 million player, but just respected.
Mm-hmm.
I like that moment in sports.
Yeah. Who did I see?
It doesn't speak like, think about Amenahu. The Chiefs like him. They kind of value similar guys.
Well, Mooney Ward against the Chiefs. How about that?
McKinnon. Andy's had him.
Mooney Ward. Oh yeah, McKinnon. Yeah. That's more a Kyle guy, but yeah.
But an Andy guy. Andy's had him since Kyle got. They physically they view football. How much do you think Kyle would like the way their DBs hit? That's the one thing that stands out to me with the Chiefs. Like all their DBs tackle hard. I just think their mentality. And Andy. Always was known like opposite, right? Like Kyle's a runner, Andy's a passer, even though Andy, they've gone 24, 15, and 24 with Pacheco the last 3 games. And 15, 2 weeks ago, they were down a lot in that Bills game, so they were kind of forced to pass. But the 2 games they had leads on, they ran for almost 25 carries each game with Isaiah Pacheco alone. But I he's a lineman, tough guy. His teams in Philly were just Jim Johnson physical. I would say his team now is Spags, very physical. I think fundamentally they have a lot in common. Both offensive guys that are just thinking about offense and the quarterback a lot. I think Andy's definitely more inclined. He kind of likes the tradey guy more, like at his core, right? Donovan, to Michael Vick, to Mahomes. But Andy loved fucking Alex Smith. Loved him. And I would have, and that version of Alex Smith, Kyle would have liked a lot too, right?
Yep. Kyle would have been really good with him. Well, I mean, Andy, they both, Andy was really good with him. I saw who's the guy, the funny guy with Le Batard? Stu Gatz.
Yeah.
Did you see that clip of him going around the other day?
No.
It was like, he's like still, basically he was like, this is my worst take. He was basically like, how do you get rid of Alex Smith? He just won 14 games. This is going to go down as awful. He wore it. But
I think I have less of a problem. I know like old takes exposed and all the gutter rats on Twitter and stuff, those type takes. At the time when you make a take, you don't know. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, not in a million years you would have thought this. I would also say it's not like they were redshirting a guy that everyone had seen like USC, Texas, or Alabama. They're like, I'd probably take the risk. I mean, I think he's one of the all-time unknown. Even Deshaun Watson, when Cleveland traded for him, or I guess it was the Texans traded for him.
Yeah.
We had seen Deshaun Watson for 2 years in the biggest moments winning natties. You're like, this fucking kid. Jesus, he's got a chance to be pretty good. I don't ever remember watching Patrick Mahomes in college. Unless he was part of the one Arizona State game that was like 78-74.
I think he was. Yeah.
Didn't Arizona State have a running back that had 6 or 7 touchdowns in that game?
Yeah, it was not Benjamin. It was maybe Kalen Ballage.
Yeah, it was that guy.
Yeah.
Didn't he have? I'm pretty sure 6. Does that sound correct?
7 actually. Yeah, it was definitely at least 6. It might.
That game going to overtime.
I mean, you would think that it had to have, but
I think the final score was like 72-65. Does that sound correct?
ASU Texas Tech
would have been probably 2016,
maybe. Yeah. 17. Is it 52-45? Not that one.
That might have been it. So
Kalen Ballage, 1 touchdown, was not that game. So that must have been the return game. Here we go. September 10, 2016, 68-55. Mahomes, 38 of 53, 540 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. Kalen Ballage, it was 13 carries, 7 touchdowns.
How many yards?
137. He scored 7. Manny Wilkins, 28 of 37, 351, 2 touchdowns passing. N'Keal Harry, 6 for 72 in the game. No catch. I don't think Ayuk was on the team that year. Anybody else here in this game?
I do think Mahomes.
Zane Gonzalez made a field goal.
He was a former Niner. Had one of the most underrated college careers of just no one paying attention. Very like 80s, 90s, where if you just weren't on TV, but this was a time where everyone was on TV, but no one. And in a day and age when everyone's blowing quarterbacks, like you got to keep an eye on this guy at North Carolina.
I know.
Keep an eye on this guy at Wazoo.
That one was just kind of.
Oh, I got to check out this Cam Ward guy. Oh, this Minnesota's got a guy that Mel Kiper said might go in the second round. I don't ever remember hearing the fucking kid's name ever.
I just remember it as like what's his dad? Is his dad Pat Mahomes? I've forgotten now. Is it?
I don't know if this was.
I just remember it was like, oh, the pitcher's got a kid. Yeah, Pat Mahomes. I love that Patrick doesn't go by Junior, by the way.
I hope this was a real quote. I doubt it was. Now thinking about it, when someone asked his dad if he was going to sit in the suite with Taylor and Brittany, he said, "I hope not." But it might have been one of those like fake accounts.
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't end up posting this. I don't know. Maybe I deleted it. Where'd it go? I was rewatching the game yesterday, just the TV copy of the game, and I found this photo of they come back from break and they're showing. They don't say like there's the Purdys. They just like here's the crowd and it's Purdy's mom. The Niners had just tied the game. The place is going ape shit. Everybody's on their feet except for Purdy's dad. He's just sitting there, and he's just, I can't even imagine, John, the roller coaster that guy, he just needed a minute, because they say leave him alone. Maybe you told me that, or there was an article the other day that was like, leave, everyone knows, like, if you come to the Purdy's during, like, while they're watching Niner game, like, just kind of leave dad alone. So I believe, like, I don't, if
was he a big leaguer or was that Goff's dad?
Well, Pat Mahomes' dad was a big leaguer. Goff's dad, did he get to the big leagues?
But he's
definitely a baseball player.
Minor leaguer.
Yeah.
But I just think Purdy's dad looks like one?
Purdy's dad did not get to the big leagues, but he played on a AA team that was like pretty stacked with like.
Okay, so he doesn't just look like one. He is a former baseball player.
Yeah, former minor league baseball player. Yeah. And wears the hat.
I feel like he's a catcher. Yeah,
no, I think he was an infielder.
Okay.
I
think Chubba was like, the brothers were there too, it felt like, right?
Had to have been.
You see Chuba is not going to San Jose State anymore once he left?
Nevada.
Yeah.
I did see that.
So maybe it truly wasn't about being by the brothers, just going to the best option.
I mean, that was a pretty good place to go. I don't know who Nevada hired a new coach. I don't know who it is. I don't know who their new coach is, but
falling on hard times.
Yeah, it's about as tough as it gets right now.
Basketball team, I think, is rolling because Maria's brother lives in Reno. The former Boise State guy?
Yeah.
Is the head coach in Nevada?
Sean Purdy was a pitcher. Head coach in Nevada,
yeah. Maria's brother, who lives in Reno, is like a season ticket holder now to the basketball team.
Oh.
During Christmas, he's like, they're fucking 12-1. They're sweet. They were awesome. I think they're really good.
Are they building a new I think they might be building a new basketball facility too.
They're not just, he just said they were fun to watch. Like they fly around, they dunk.
You can't even, I put the photo up on YouTube. You can't see him because he's sitting. He's just behind. Look at the red arrow. Everybody else is just, that's the one thing I was watching the game again. You realize like football, I think it's because of the angles and just how much is going on. Baseball is the best for just crowd shots of people freaking out nonstop because you can do like 7 in a row because you got time. Football, it's hard to get the vibe. I mean, you get a little bit, but it's hard to really feel football. At least the NFL on TV sometimes, I think. Whereas like baseball, you can really feel like the stadium. They get these big shots of the crowds just throwing water bottles in the air and stuff.
Well, because once the ball comes back to the pitcher, he does a lap around the thing. Like,
exactly.
The moment you get an incompletion, you're like, God, it's already 30 seconds. These guys got to go back in the huddle. You got to get a play call. It's 2nd and 9.
Yeah, we're going. Oh my God, we got 11 personnel. They got the 2 linebackers here. What are they doing?
I know. And you got Kyle doing this, and because he's calling a play, you just gotta.
Too much going on.
There's the amount that you have going on as a head coach who's a play caller, and then just the Dan Campbells of the world. It's got to be a completely different. How does Kyle or Sean McVay even have much in common with that guy's football experience on game day? He can't. I mean, it's just because half the game, you're not only thinking the play call. You hear these guys talk in the offseason, like the next play. Obviously, Kyle's king set plays up on run game for play action. It's like a chess game where Dan's just,
Like, you better be good at clock management if
fuck
you can.
Yeah!
That's all you're doing.
And in fairness to Dan, he was. Like, he got to the final spot with 3 timeouts, and even he said, I gambled and I lost.
Gambled on running the ball?
On running the ball. But Sean McVay, who's gotten to that spot about 7 times this year with 1 timeout, I give you credit if you have 3 timeouts under the 2-minute warning. Like, you've done a good job managing the second half.
Yep.
And I thought Dan Campbell, Kyle beat him, but there was an authenticity and a realness with admitting it of like, I gambled and I lost. I like Kyle a lot. He would never say that in a million years. He would never utter those words.
No. Brock's family should get their own suite. I don't know. We'll see. They say the brain.
You see the price of those things?
The brain is, it's probably, I mean, it's his post-tax income, a suite. How much is a suite? Is it 100,000?
I mean,
50,000
for the year at Levi's?
No. For the Super Bowl.
I think it's 8. I heard on CNBC yesterday, like 85 grand.
Yeah. So 85 grand. So the guy's making $500,000 take home. So that's almost, it's like 17% of his annual salary he's going to pay out for a suite.
I don't think he's making that much take home.
Oh yeah. He's making 400 probably.
Yeah.
Right. So it's 20% almost. He's not buying them a suite.
No.
The brain. I was just thinking. I happened to read this today.
I also think that it's just such a corporate event that it's, Taylor's unique. She has unlimited money, but it's not a lot of suites. The Manning occasionally, right when his brother played in. You were talking about like the richest person in the NFL or the richest celebrity in America. Like most of these suites are Coors Light, draft. Like you go around, it's like this event is about stroking everyone that keeps the NFL rolling. Right? This is not, you're not going to see a lot of families in suites.
No. Player suites, basically. You might see a bunch of families in one suite.
Yeah.
Sharing. Right.
Sharing.
The brain is 2% of our body weight, but 20%, but it requires 20% of our energy. So the brain takes a lot of energy to like run, And so I just made me think of that when you said, what is Kyle doing versus what Dan Campbell's doing? The amount of effort, which maybe we don't give enough credit to, like the Matt Nagy's of the world, right? Who Andy shouted out the other day. Like he is the offensive coordinator. I would kill to be on a headset and hear how 100% of the time the play call doesn't come from the same guy. Like sometimes I remember talking to one of our buddies who's an offensive coach in the NFL. And he's like, he was an OC in college. And he's like, well, sometimes like I'll take a series, head coach will take a series. Because the head coach he's got to do other stuff. So he can't do 100% of the calls. So I'll do like half of them. And he might chime in on a big fourth down or something. Kyle, Kyle, I think it's safe to say Kyle's doing 100% of the calls.
But it's also why I think Sean McVay's doing 100% of the calls. Like I think Andy would be an example. Like if you told me something was going on with the guy, he went to talk to him, Nagy took over, or Bieniemy took, like that happens.
Yeah.
Kyle and Sean McVay are not relinquishing that. And for example, the thing with Dan Campbell, what he said was, I told him to do it. Like it was on me.
He said, run the ball.
Yeah. He said, run the fucking ball. And he's like, I thought we were going to walk in. And then, coaches are always like, we missed the block. I mean, Dan, I haven't rewatched the play. It felt like 7 Niners were in the backfield. I don't know if you missed one block, because I watched the Niners get gashed all game. That was the first time it felt like 3 red jerseys were penetrating the line of scrimmage. He had nowhere to go. But I do, as someone who just yearned for the guy to be like, yeah, I wish I could have that play over. Not even smiling. Like, yeah, I wish I could have that play over. It was very refreshing to be like, yeah, I told Ben to run the ball and I gambled and I lost.
Even if Kyle had said after Purdy got hurt last year, even if he'd said, you win some, you lose some, that would have been more of an admitting. Like that, even that would have been more than like, no, it was the right thing to do.
No, the right thing to do, motherfuckers. I would do it again, and I don't get dwelly, schmelly, or
if
welly.
Brock gets the ball out on time, then it doesn't happen. That's what he's basically said. He's like, the ball's got to come out.
I wonder if once you win, you even really criticize. Like if you look at Chiefs fans, like over the course of a couple years, are they ever like, God damn it, Andy? Or just like, this is okay. It's like whatever.
It
Raiders
feels like Kyle is much more in the ringer at week to week than most other NFL coaches, doesn't it?
Yeah. Part of probably when you haven't won it all. And this is, when you're the coach of the Lakers, coach of the Yankees, like it does feel like no one gives a shit about managers anymore in baseball, for example. Right? Like,
yeah,
everyone, it's like, well, yeah, Kapler sucks, but he's making $750,000, like whatever. It does feel like, just loosely following baseball and social media, like Boone is under the gun a lot. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
His
GM's under the gun every year too.
Yeah, it's why Howie's buddies with him. They can relate. In fairness, like Howie's not joking. Like that pressure in Philly is the same shit, right? I do think Kyle, part of being the head coach of the Niners and being good, comes with like a lot of people are paying attention.
I lost our buddy Ryan McGrady was in the chat. He said that Jed quote it's a Bill Walsh quote.
It is, yeah.
Bill Walsh quote all kinds of. Bill Walsh's thing was like, Bill Walsh, one of his things in his book is like the 6 lessons I learned from George Patton. And one of them was like, the general should be on the front line with his troops. Like, well, okay, how does an NFL coach do that?
Go get him, Ronnie.
Ronnie, I'm with you, man. I'd cut off that pinky. If it was me, I would do the same thing.
Yeah, Ronnie, if it was me, I would definitely lower my head and take this guy's sternum out.
I would play, Debo. That's just me, but I would play. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm here. I'm right here with you.
Walsh was a big like boxing guy, wasn't he? Like a big Walsh and Jack Harbaugh love using boxing as metaphors for life in football.
It used to be like the sport. I think you could.
It used to be a
everything
big deal. Yeah, if you're their age, Walsh is a little older than Jack probably, but obviously long gone. But I would imagine Bill Walsh should be 100. How old do you think Bill Walsh should be today?
I'd guess Walsh would be like 92, 88.
You're pretty damn close. He was born in 31, so he would be 100 here in 7 years. So I'd be early 90s.
Because he died kind of youngish, right? How old was he? Died?
He died at 75 years old. So he wasn't. It's not like he was 88 when he passed away.
Yeah. We've talked about this. I don't think we actually said the number. The Niners game did 56.3 million, peaked at 58.9, so peaked at like 59. And the Chiefs game did 55.5, which, kind of flies in the face of the theory that Taylor Swift is bringing viewers to football. I think maybe she's bringing attention other places, but in terms of like NFL ratings, I don't know. Maybe she is.
Think about those brands, though. I mean, Kansas City and Baltimore aren't exactly New York and Chicago. So the NFC has always, like, why they say Fox had one of the great moves in the history of the league is they got the NFC.
Yeah.
It has New York, Philly, Dallas, the 49ers. Now it's added LA.
It also gives you West Coast primetime times.
The Packers.
Right. The NFC gave you more the AFC does too, but like this matchup, it's a prime time game as opposed to the other game.
Yeah, and Sunday Night Football is bigger than, the afternoon games, right?
Nights are just bigger than days for the most part.
Yeah. But I think if you could choose, the AFC has better quarterbacks, not debatable. Look at that game. I mean, how many MVPs between the two of those guys now? 4. They're both making combined $700 million or whatever. 2 of the best players, I mean, just in terms of skill levels you've ever seen in the NFL. And it was really the Niners are about the franchise, the brand being sweet, replace players. But whether it's Willis and Frank Gore or now Debo and Fred, it's just that brand is the Niners brand. Sounds like I'm sucking them off, but it truly, of the 4 teams, was dramatically bigger than everything. Like ultimately, the Chiefs brand, is it the Chiefs brand or is it Mahomes? I'm not saying the Chiefs are small, but because they've been good in our lifetime.
The Chiefs would you say the Chiefs are undeniably a top 10 NFL brand?
In the last 6 years, now they've probably elevated into a top 5, right? With Patrick. Yeah,
I just mean just as a franchise, like they're if you did like a franchise NFL draft,
as long as Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are there, yes, they would go very high. But it's like I would view the Warriors as similar, right? Like if Steph Curry disappears tomorrow and it's Jonathan Kuminga and Moody, like I'm sorry, you're just not the Lakers and the Celtics.
My question is not Mahomes specific. I'm just asking, in the history of the NFL, are they a top 10 most relevant franchise?
Probably not.
And it's hard to pick. Like the Cowboys are, the Niners are, Raiders top 10.
They'd have a claim to fame. They're more famous, I would say, than the Chiefs over the course of 50 years. Doesn't it feel that way?
Yes, it does.
I mean, the guy that ran their franchise also was their owner, is got to be one of the most famous guys. If you just did the list of most famous guys in the history of the league, like Al's above anyone, Lamar Hunt, right?
Yep.
I mean, the Broncos had Elway.
Lamar's name's on the trophy, but Al's a bigger name.
I feel like Denver would get drafted ahead of Kansas City.
Chicago? They would. Think about the Bears of the Bears of the 80s, I mean, are still like legendary teams, right?
As a kid, when you started like playing high school football or whatever, and you just like coaches talk about tough, like Butkus just got said.
Well, just the 85 Bears get said all the time. The people have no idea.
But I even mean going back to like Gale Sayers in fucking Butkus back in, I don't even know what year. This is talking the 60s.
You just knew the name. The name is Dick Butkus. You knew the name.
I think he is like, I don't want to say Babe Ruth, but like just in football, what it stood for pre all the rules for CTE. it was just a synonymous, like, you just want to play like fucking Dick Butkus. So yeah, I'd put the Bears. The Bears would be high.
Yeah.
Like a team like Seattle would be bottom 10. Right.
Yep.
Tampa,
Arizona.
Bottom 5.
You might have to take out like teams who were expansion teams in the last 30 years, right? You have to take out Colts. Where do the Colts fit?
I think because of Peyton, and then way back in the day, Johnny Unitas, is that Baltimore Colts? It's hard because some of these teams.
Yeah, but they were a big deal in Baltimore.
Yeah.
White Tittle. I mean, the Niners go way back. So
yeah, I mean, the Niners are easily a top 5. To me, it's like the Cowboys, the Niners, the Steelers, the Packers,
Jets.
No,
Jets and Giants.
The Giants are higher than the Jets. Like even the Patriots.
Namath.
Like, are the Patriots? We're gonna find out. No, but I'm saying like that 20-year span, they became the Yankees, the Lakers, or whatever because of the two guys.
Yeah.
There's a chance that they become now the fucking Tennessee Titans, right? Kind of out of sight, out of mind, shitty for a while. Like if you were a betting man, I said you got to put $1,000. The next 5 years, are they in the mix and relevant and big part of the league, or are they more likely to be the Titans or the Atlanta Falcons or whatever?
Far more likely.
Yeah. You wouldn't even hesitate where you put your money. Which can happen. Any team that sucks is a little out of sight, out of mind, right? Because you're just not in the afternoon, the night games. You get the one, once you establish you suck, you just get the one minimum, usually like primetime game. And even now, like what was the deal this year? Some teams played the Niners. They played multiple Thursday night games. So you're not even guaranteed that anymore. Like next year, the Carolina Panthers. I would venture to say they don't get a Thursday night game. Right? Because remember, they wanted to like take care of Amazon. Like this year, the Steelers got a couple more. The Niners got a couple. I think the Eagles played 2. Cowboys. You just this now the business is so big. I can't just totally fuck you.
Yeah, there is no partner that will just take our poop. Right? We have to service our partners like a scout team. Alex Smith was on. I love with the service team. We got to service the starters, John. Alex Smith on Adam Schefter's podcast. Take a listen.
49er defense doesn't do a lot. They don't present a lot of volume. I think they're going to be in for it. The only chance I think the Niners have to win is a little bit of a shootout. And again, this Chiefs defense just continues to elevate their game.
They're going to be in for it. I don't love they're going to be in for it when it comes like the Niners offense. They're going to be in for it, or the Niners defense. They're going to be in for it. I don't love that.
Love this guy. Love him. A ton of respect. I've met him one time at the Raider game. Matt Nagy introduced me. He's biased on this one. He's rooting for the Chiefs. Andy's his guy. Nagy's his guy. Mahomes is like, he's a Chief. He's not like, and again, I'm biased most things I do. He's biased on this. He's rooting for the Chiefs. He has an agenda here for the Chiefs. Shootout. The Chiefs don't shoot out. They don't score many points. Like he's rooting for, and I don't blame him. Like I would too. Andy Reid fucking likes me, changed my life, right? Like put me on like respect. He's not rooting Kyle Shanahan, John Lynn. He doesn't care about those guys. The 49er team. I just want that. Like he's rooting for the Chiefs, and rightfully so. He should, but it's like let's not act like he's a. I don't even think the independent, unbiased journalist really exists anymore. But that's another conversation. He's not that. Like he's got a rooting interest here. Because Google the Chiefs scores. Like who do they shoot out? Like they don't do shootouts. It's not this. That's the team that they played in 20. Have they scored more than 30 points once all season?
Have the Kansas City Chiefs scored more than 30? 1, 2, 3 times.
Bears, Chargers, Raiders. I mean, it doesn't have. And since they beat the Raiders 31-17.
On November 26th.
They have not scored over 30 and couple teens, couple 20s. I'm going the wrong way.
They've scored, I can tell you, they go 19, 17, 27, 14, 25, 13. Although that was, did Mahomes play week 18? To those guys?
No, he did. No, he did not.
Okay, so take that game out. And then And in the playoffs, they haven't done it.
And in fairness, like Baltimore is an elite defense. So the 17 points, like I don't necessarily hold that like that's against them.
26 in the Buffalo attempts was pretty impressive. Yeah. Also, right.
I'm not acting like I'm not trying to dispel this squad here, but if you watch the Jordan documentary, when you got Jordan and Pippen in like 93, they were the cream of the crop athletes. When you played them in like 97, 98, they played differently. They were still great and they still were winners and they were going to win, but their style was a lot different than like that 49er team that lost to them in, January or February of 2020. That team to me was dramatically, the Chiefs team offensively was dramatically different than what the Niners are saying. Like that was, at the time, a lot of people were saying like, this is some of the best offensive stretches we've ever seen. Tyreek in the peak of his powers, young Conley, Kelsey Young, elite. I mean, it felt like the greatest show on turf with those three, like Mahomes, the receiver, and the tight end. This team is, for a lot of the year, Travis was old. Now, my take on Travis is he's got a little like Scottie Pippen to him. It's like Scotty's got a bad back. When they fucking needed him, he showed up for Michael. Like Mahomes needs him. He's fucking there.
You see his route? Somebody posted his route tree from the game, and it's just like half of them are routes, and half of them are just like him fucking running all over the place and catching balls from Mahomes. Like they're just an elite 2-on-2 team, right? To your point on hoop basketball.
Dominant. I mean, he shattered Jerry's record or whatever, but he's dominant. I mean, he had 11 for 116 against the Ravens, who literally are built to slow down a tight end with two elite linebackers, one elite linebacker, another solid guy, and a safety who's 6'4". And he destroyed them early, too. It was like, I'm going to kick you while you're down, guys. That's the one thing that they can't, like, they kind of had this, we're here to beat you, and they folded. The Niners do have, like, not folded them like the Ravens. So they can sustain a body blow. If you tell me the Chiefs, the Niners are going to, if they win the toss, right, turn it down for the second half. Chiefs might too. So, there's a chance. Let's just assume that somehow, however it works out, the Chiefs start with the ball and they drive and score. We've learned enough these last 2 weeks. It's not over. Well, I think the Ravens, when it they were just shell-shocked when they took the first blow.
Yeah. Well, and then they started, their quarterback made mistakes in crunch time. Right. Like that, like multiple. And I'll say this for Lamar, who does he have to lean on that offense? Like Mahomes has Kelsey, Purdy's got guys. Who does Lamar have to lean on at that offense? Especially if you're not going to run the ball, which they didn't run the ball. So they had nobody to lean on. Like Odell. The one thing, who? Odell? Is that what you said, Odell?
Well, I'm just saying like that. Are you talking veteran players or are you talking?
I'm saying like, who can he go? Who can help him?
Yeah.
Like really help him in crunch time that's done it before, that's been through the wars with him. He doesn't have a guy right now. Mark Andrews just came back from fucking getting his leg blown off. So, and the other thing this week or next week, this is the best offensive coach that Spagnuolo is facing in the postseason, right? This is, he went up against Todd Monken. He went up against Joe Brady. He went up against Mike McDaniel, but that was, minus 7 degrees for the Dolphins. They had no chance in that game. So this is, I think, the stiffest test that Spags is facing in this postseason. Yeah. Even though Lamar is a stiff test in his own way, but just in terms of the guy that he's facing, would Kyle Shanahan have run the ball 6 times or 9 times with his running back last week if he was the Ravens head coach? Not a chance in hell, right?
One carry at half.
They had one running back carry, or even including Lamar?
Gus Edwards had one carry. Lamar had the one run that went for like 20 yards, and they never went back to it. I had Lamar over 70 yards, decent amount of money. I was like, run this fucking – do you guys just watch Josh Allen? And they refused to do it.
Yeah.
Purdy might have some, Willie Gay hurt his neck. He was out last week. I bet he's out. And he's a big, like, run-around linebacker. So, Yeah, they're going to run it on these guys for sure. Come from behind you.
Niners are just the cardiac kids, John. Cardiac kids. You're saying that Alex Smith is like the RG3 of picking against Shanahan. Now, that's what.
No.
Alex clearly likes Purdy and the Niners like he does.
Yeah, this is less about Shanahan and the Niners. This is like Andy is Alex's guy.
Kyle going to come out throwing the ball.
The moment Jim, Wally pipped him for Colin, Andy was fucking staring down. You want tutus? And I'll break you off some money. And I'll build this thing for like years. It wasn't like, they had a couple year run. He was like a 5-year starting quarterback for like a half a decade, rattling off double-digit wins going up against Rivers and Peyton Manning. I mean, Andy, he loves Andy. Rightfully so. Again, like he's biased. He's biased. This is not some shootout team.
No, but I think he sees Patrick Mahomes and just thinks at any time it can become a shootout because of that guy. I think that's how he sees it, right?
If the game's in the teens, like are they keeping the Chiefs in the teens? Like if I told you that the Chiefs score 17 points, if Kyle doesn't win, it's beyond devastating for him and Purdy.
Yeah.
Like it's just there's no way around it.
Yeah.
Zero. Because it's like, okay, Christian is getting stuffed. Like, okay, the quarterback, you got to be making some throws. You got enough weapons.
So what's the number of points I give you on Kansas City where you start changing the way you think about it? Like 21? If I say 21?
I would say once we get to the early 20s, I mean, I could see their defense, who I don't know, just played against Mahomes and Allen. Like, I don't think they're like acting like Purdy. They are going to respect them, but I mean, they just went up against two of the most physically gifted quarterbacks you and I have ever seen in our life. So
yeah,
I mean, it's who individually can do things that on the road. So I think they're going to feel pretty good, just in terms of the quarterback. Now, the skill set around them. I mean, obviously Debo back is a different animal. Ayuk's one of the best route runners. Kittle's a star, and Christian is, as long as just a stinger. The Kyle's like, yeah, he's just a little stinger. You didn't put him back in the game. You gave one carry with.
Well, did you see? We didn't know this when we talked about the game, that it was Christian said, I'm just not sure. He was basically like, I can't vouch for my ability to secure the football right now because of this stinger, and kind of took himself out, which I actually think most times because after he scores or when he gets to the one or whatever, he does the one, and then they want to put him back. He's like, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, like for some guys, you'd be like, does this guy not want the moment? With Christian, obviously, we know Christian wants the moment, which is a pretty big thing to do. I think I thought that's a pretty telling thing about who Christian McCaffrey is. That he goes, guys, I can't guarantee you that I'm not going to fumble this ball based on the way my body feels. Like I'm not sure how my body's going to react.
I think a lot of guys would have said that, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't know, but that's pretty fucking impressive to do it. Yeah, maybe you would.
I probably would.
Lucky you got another guy. Good thing Mitchell stays warm. So
I don't know if I would have given it to him in that spot.
Well, I
would have gone Debo or Juszczyk, I think.
Yeah.
I might have gone Juszczyk and just be like, hey, when you get close, just hit the ground. One of those.
Yeah.
Because Mitchell ran right into the pile. Mario Cristobal,
shout out to Elijah Mitchell. Tito's toast to Elijah Mitchell for staying ready, John.
I mean, at any moment, Christian could land on his face and his shoulder, and every bone in the back could break.
Our guy Juice, by the way, has got we can make a highlight tape probably from this year of Juice at like the 1 yard line, almost. And look, he always looks up at the video board to rewatch it. And like this week, they tried to give it to him, and he always he's always laughing. He's always like, God damn, that was, because he knows that was my shot. Like Kyle's not giving me another one, He's always got a smile on his face when he watches that replay.
I think Kristen's going to get some serious, like, Good Morning America. She's going to get a lot of pub next week. Next week's going to be big for her.
Hey, shout out to the NFL for not suing her, John. She got her licensing deal done with the NFL today. It was announced.
I was thinking about this. The power of what she's doing is just incredible, but she kind of is an independent artist. So it's not like she could ever make stuff at scale in the sense that, like, how many people can do what she does? It's one of those, like, you're Pablo Picasso. I can't just have 50 people painting like him. Like, it's kind of unique, right?
Well, You can, but I mean, like, think about any Chanel or any of this major art house. Like, eventually, it's the vision of the original person, and you got a person in charge. It's her vision. Who's the guy? Jeff Koons. Have you ever seen those balloons of like the balloon sculptures of dogs? Have you seen, like, they're very famous? I don't know if you know, but like, this guy was on 60 Minutes a while ago, and he's got like a team of fucking 100 people making shit for him. That is just like his vision. You know, so his hands are not on it. It's like
you could definitely do some like universal, like a Niners jacket, a Packers jacket, or whatever. But like when Klay Thompson shows up, like people ask for specific stuff, like the Hutchinson's jacket by the one actor or Taylor Swift. It'd be just I'm fascinated.
I think you license, right? She does designs. You sell it for $75,
exactly,
$150 or whatever. No, I'm saying like the one that's on NFL.com that's available to Maria and Alyssa and everybody else. It's $75, whatever. And then if she wants, like, Kristen can still make hers that go to Taylor Swift, and like you give them to people, the handmade ones.
One thing, Colin and I talked about this. My theory is one reason the NFL feels like it's got gaining momentum and strong. They've always had guys. They've always had the fucking blue collar worker. They've always had the season ticket holder. They've always had the dude that played high school football. They've always had just people that like sports. I think women are watching football in record numbers right now. And this gets back to, it's just ideally suited. It's easy for them to consume, right? It's just the once a week thing. So it's not like, well, another basketball game's on, another baseball game's on. I just see it in my own life. I mean, my mom, who loves Andy Reid because I worked for him, is the biggest bandwagon Chiefs fan these last like 5 years since Mahomes got around that you'll ever see. Like, she's just actively, she told me that I was unloyal and dishonest and a bad person for betting on the Baltimore Ravens. She was very, very taken back. She does not miss a snap.
Old school.
And I see it with my girlfriend and her mom and just all her, like, women are just watching football. And that's just not, obviously, they're not watching the NBA. And, baseball's a little unique, but obviously the quantity is nowhere near, because it does feel like women do watch baseball, especially older women that grew up in a generation. But it's,
going to baseball games is a very social event.
Yeah.
And I think that's the NFL is
another
a
thing
very social thing to watch. It's a very social thing to watch. They've done for several years now. They do the ABC draft broadcast that is more like, stories about the guys. You know what I mean? Like the kind of stuff that you're non-hardcore. Like, it's going to be a great nose for us. Can we get a nose tackle in the 5th round? Like, that's the ESPN broadcast. And on ABC, it's like, he lost his father when he was 12. Now his mother raised him, right? Like, they do 2 different broadcasts for the NFL draft. Like, that's a significant thing. The schedule makes it so easy that at some point you go, well, if you're going to sit here and watch this, maybe I'll watch it with you. And fantasy football, like office pool fantasy footballs in fantasy football leagues include everybody. I remember seeing it when Alyssa got in a fantasy football league several years ago at work. All of a sudden she was like dialed in on stuff.
How about this T. Higgins cat?
So, you got that. They've had no mate. When you think about the NFL post like Ray Rice and, head trauma, Will Smith movie, they've had no real major. They think about like the baseball for years. What's baseball's been, we got to fix this game. It's too slow and boring. Basketball's been, our best players never play. Like, you don't know when they're playing. What if football's issues? Like, big picture, Deshaun Watson would be one. Like, that was a big, if you said on the line of scandal, not a scandal, I think Deflategate was good for football. Like, that was a good scandal. It made like Brady's return massive, and you got like the Darth Vader, you got this enemy. Deshaun was bad. That was a very bad one. But for the most part, the NFL, like, they banished him. They just,
and like everyone was on the same page. Like, what a scumbag!
And they were like, he's out of the league for a year, and then he'll come back.
Beside Mulgeta, like, great guy, $230 million, and Quincy Avery, like, I support his character. It's like, yeah, no one else does.
So
you guys have an agenda.
It's just such an emotional, easy thing to watch too. Like, oh my God, that guy hit that guy really hard. That doesn't take much.
I think their characters have become, I feel the NFL.
And they have the other thing. Sorry, John, I'd add the ecosystem of football is great. You have college football is part of your ecosystem. College football is one of the most watched things in America. It's second to the NFL.
Yeah.
And Jesse Palmer. I'd say Jesse Palmer. That's the other one.
Troy Aikman 55 is pretty good looking dude.
Yeah. Well, Tony Romo was one that like was very popular. People like women. Alyssa was she's like, I like watching Tony. He's just yelling out the plays. You're right. So people like, I don't know, Tony and Jim. She just likes watching Tony. He's just goofy. It's easy. So I interrupted you. You were saying something.
No, I agree. It's just, I think human beings like big things. It's how shows get really big, right? When a show, it happened a lot more when we were younger than now because there's a million shows. But it was hard to not check out a show once everyone talked about it and then everyone was watching it. And like, obviously these shows were good, like from Cheers to MASH to Seinfeld to Sopranos, but it gains in momentum and you feel left out. I felt that way with Game of Thrones, even though I don't like that type shit. I just felt it was so big I have to watch. And it's rare. Like anytime that happens, I just dabble. Doesn't mean I'm going to like it, but I think a huge element of like everyone's watching this. Everyone is like it does that. The NBA has completely lost that. They had when we were kids with Michael Jordan, it had a feel to that. Even baseball went through with the Yankees and Red Sox. Like it was a cultural, sports moment. Those leagues don't bring that to the table anymore. And football brings it in spades. It's like, you got to watch it. It like breeds on itself. And then all the ancillary from fantasy to gambling to, if you just go to a game, like there's an element as just a fan. I feel so many people that I went to high school or college with that are just at the Niner game. Well, where a lot of their Instagram stories start at the tailgate, right? It's like barbecue in the background, having a couple high noons or fucking beers. The NFC Championship game was what, like 3:30. You're just there. It's just it's an event. There's no event like going to watch Giants Rockies, right? You gotta be like the World Series kind of becomes that, or the playoffs.
Well, you do if you go watch like a baseball game, you'll go to Momo's, right? You hang out for a while if it's a nice, there is some of that with baseball, but not on the
used to be bigger. It felt like it's diminished,
but also just not on the scale. Like football is going to have twice as many people at its stadium, right? Almost
that too,
40% more. All right, so what is the rating for 49ers Chiefs going to be? For reference, Chiefs Philly last year was 114 million people. It was the biggest Super Bowl by far in a long time.
Strauss is a big believer in the out-of-home boost, so it's like inflated. The old 105 is now the new 115, 120.
Yeah, but even the year before, Rams Bengals understandably was 99 million. Tampa Bay Kansas City 95. This is with the out-of-home boosts. I
go 115, 120.
Yeah, so it'll be last year's play. It'll be bigger than the Eagles. 120 would be a very significant increase over last year, right? 114. I think the thing to notice is, what did the Peacock broadcast do? Like 29 million?
24
million on Peacock for a first round NFL game. That immediately made me think that they could get 75 million if they put the Super Bowl on Peacock. Like that number was huge, I thought.
Yeah, I think it'd be higher than that.
Okay, higher. Like to me, like it would be bigger than people think to put the Super Bowl on Peacock.
I do think the average person, definitely the average like media guy, the average person that's active on Twitter underestimates how popular Peacock is in terms of like with women and the shows that are on there. So how many men in their house have it through their wife or their girlfriend? Like I had it, I didn't even.
I think it's free with Xfinity. Yeah, but I'm not making I haven't even seen anybody guess what the Super Bowl would be on Peacock. I invented that question, John.
But would it be higher on if I told you that like the Super Bowl's on Netflix? Like would they even be phased? Like who doesn't have Netflix?
Well, I mean, historically, even now, like putting something on a broadcast channel is bigger than even another non-broadcast channel.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, like at this point in time, I think that old school mindset is only which is true, right? But like in 5 years, are more people going to watch Netflix than Channel 3? NBC.
I don't know.
The baby boomers are keeping those channels alive.
No, I understand. I would have thought. I thought the Peacock number was the most eye-opening streaming number, bigger than anything Amazon's done. just in how quickly people adapted. It's not something that's been Amazon's on year 2. That thing was just bam, here's a game on Peacock, and it was 24 million people.
I would say those playoffs. I guess I wasn't as shocked too because the power of Peacock, how many people are going to have it. Playoff game. Thursday night football is a lot of average shitty games. There's not as much urgency for that game as there is.
Yeah.
If I told you Peacock had a Sunday, like Peacock has, instead of doing Sunday night football this week 8, let's just pick a random week, 2024. Sunday night football is not going to be on NBC. It's going to be on Peacock. I bet that number would be higher than Thursday night football of a good game.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it would.
Bills, Dolphins, or Chiefs, fucking Broncos, or something.
I think they'd get back to their NBC broadcast number. Let's just say they put Sunday night football on Peacock permanently. I think it would take them 2 years max to get back to that, whatever they normally do. I think it'd get there pretty fast because you'd have this. Nothing forces adoption like the NFL. So I'm going to say
the NFL is keeping these
118.
broadcasts alive. Like I'm a big believer in this. I think streaming. I think all these sports, like when we're when we're 50, right, in 10, 12 years, I just don't think we're going to even remotely look at television the same. Think how much it's changed in the last 5 years from you and I.
Yeah. There's nothing you can tell me.
It's happening at rapid speed.
There's nothing you can tell me. There's no prediction I think you can make about what the future of streaming looks like that I wouldn't go, okay, that's possible. Fast. And it's going to happen faster than we think.
Do you think a Super Bowl is streamed by the time we're 50?
Exclusively streamed? I think there's a good chance. I don't know. I haven't really understood. I asked people in TV for years, like, how does ABC get so many more people than ESPN? They're like, well, there's still a lot of people who just have the bunny ears. It blows my mind that there's still some of that. But yeah, I don't. Well, it'd be interesting. Like, what does the Paramount Plus number do? Like for people who have cut the cord, although those people still get broadcast channels. So the Super Bowl is going to be on Paramount Plus also this year.
Oh yeah. I got to call into Gottlieb.
All right, everybody. That's it for this. Thanks for hanging. Later.
See ya.